Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we are discussing the badassery of Mel Gibson. This is the theme of August, where I will be discussing badass themes. Oh, that's the wrong one. Or badass actors and such. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? How is everybody? I see that there is Vanya. There is Geek Archivist Pierce. Good to see you all. Thank you. Sorry I am delayed, folks. Unfortunately, real life events had to delay me for an hour and 30 minutes. That's just the way it is. Nothing that I can do to avoid it. Life happens. So with that said, before I get started on the thing, I know I said without further ado. Oops. But with a little bit of further ado, if you want to support my channel, make sure, or the best way to do so is by subbing and by sharing my content. Liking the videos is all well and good, but subbing and sharing, most important too. Tonight will be the Barroom Podcast at 9 p.m. on on Society Reviews channel. Wednesdays later in the month will be Ones and Twos with Mara on her channel, Jade Shadow, 8:30 p.m., where we will be discussing Kill Bills Volume 1 and 2. Gonna have to watch those eventually. And then G.I. Jane and Quick and the Dead are for the singles at 8:30 exclusively on X. But the badassery of Mel Gibson. I recently watched a Mel Gibson movie today for the first time. It was Signs. And no, nothing major held me back. It was just helping family. But yeah. I took a look at the movie Signs today with the crop circles and the M. Night Shyamalan bit. And I gotta say, it's actually one of M. Night Shyamalan's better movies, especially when you have somebody like Mel Gibson in a movie who plays a priest, a priest who has lost his faith and whatnot, but reaffirms it from the most unlikely source, which was aliens. But yeah, however, I'm not really going over the movies themselves like a review. I'm going over more the actor and his method. I mean, Mel Gibson in this one, he plays or as I said, priest who loses his faith due to his wife dying in a car wreck that M. Night Shyamalan himself actually caused. His character, his cameo, so to speak. And the way that Mel Gibson acts it, or does the character, is he doesn't have the stoicism like he does in other movies. He does a very good job at portraying characters who have suffered loss. So I'm wondering, what kind of loss did Mel Gibson suffer in his earlier years that causes him to bring forward such passion with his acting? Because me and Mara discussed Mad Max last month, and I gotta say, when we discussed that and I saw his portrayal of that, that was his first acting movie. And it's like, dude, this guy's pretty good as an actor. Even from the get-go. I'm insane with anger. Yeah, right? That was pretty nuts. Like, I'm gonna get an ass whooping. And it's like, yeah, I cursed. Yeah, I heard it. Good job. It's like, what the heck, man? An actor saying he can't act. And then he shows that he can't act by acting like he can't act. Wrap your head around that for a second, folks. But Yeah, Mel Gibson did a really good job in Signs. I actually like that movie. One of my favorite movies, however, from Mel Gibson is this one, Ransom, where him and Rene Russo, shortly off of, I think it was Lethal Weapon 3. So they come together and do Ransom, and then they're back together in Lethal Weapon 4. This movie, with Gary Sinise as the bad guy, gotta say, you see a father who is desperate to do anything, who has resources and whatnot to turn it on the ransomer. And the way that just looking at the madness in those eyes, this is a person, or he plays a person, again, who will do anything to get his son back. He'll want to pay the ransom. Or instead, he turns it on the ransomers. He's like, instead, I am offering this money on your head, or as a reward for your head. I'm not going to pay you for my son. Anybody who is responsible for bringing forth the people responsible for kidnapping my son, well, this money is yours instead. And it's such a great way of turning it around. And you see the full emotional spectrum of Mel Gibson in that one. How he can be kind, how he can be funny a little bit in a couple of scenes, how he can be desperate, how he can be cold, how he can play shame and guilt and such. It is such a great moment. But you know what? They also have other great actors in the movie, but Mel Gibson is the focus, and I really do like that in this movie. So then we get these ones. Mel Gibson's quadrilogy, soon to be a pentalogy, of Lethal Weapons 1 through 4. Folks, a level of consistency is always important. And when you get that level of consistency in four movies where the character doesn't break character, that's actually pretty interesting, because it shows that he can return to that character very, very well. Hey, Neozoic, good to see you. Top 3 Mel Gibson movies. Well, they are actually all pretty much here. This is my absolute favorite. Braveheart. Then I go to Ransom. And then it's a tie for all the Mel Gibson movies. But yes, Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon movies. He can play crazy, wily. He does a great job at it. But he also can be very serious. I mean, when we see his character in the beginning of Lethal Weapon, he is an uncaring, ready to die, who found a new reason to live cop. And we see him delve into the depths of vengeance and anger very much in these movies. When you see him, or he carries around that psychosis from the first movie that he has. Mel Gibson has a way of portraying insane sociopathic stoicism in many of his movies, where you see him, where he goes from a nice, carefree, kind of nice guy to a person who is ready to just slaughter. It really is he has a way of showing it to such a degree that it's like, holy crap, what did this man go through? I mean, honestly, or if I ever could sit down with Mel Gibson, I would ask him, did you, or I paid attention to some of your movies, man. Mad Max, Braveheart, and even Lethal Weapon and whatnot. And Ransom, many of these movies all have a singular element in which you are, well, rather vengeful. But the way that you play it has such a stoicism, has such an almost sociopathic edge to it, or a psychotic edge to it, in which it just screams that something may have happened in your past life. He doesn't even need to explain what it is, but it's one thing that it's like, did something ever happen to you in your life that caused you to kind of have that really dark edge to you? I mean, I'm willing to bet that he could have possibly done a good Batman or at one time or another. Who knew he wasn't acting? Yeah, right. Friendship can save your life. Yes, it can. But yeah, in the movie Braveheart, he is a character, or his character witnesses the dead of his Klansmen, or people who he knew, because he followed his father against his father's wishes. And then his father ends up dying, and then he leaves Scotland with his uncle, and his uncle, or as he is an older gentleman, he comes back as he is he's like 18 or 20 when he comes back to Scotland. And well, he marries in secret because he wouldn't share his wife with an English lord, and then she ends up dying. Well, holy crap. The way that he plays it, the way that he tells people or goes up to people and just kills them without expression. It really, that kind of acting, I mean, it's easy to act as if you don't care, but deep down, there is a side of you that does care. Mel Gibson has a way of seemingly turning that little switch off, so you see that he doesn't care in some of these movies. Like when he goes right up to that English lord, puts him up against the thing, and slits his throat. It's like, holy crap, dude. The way that he, you see some of his smiles in some of the movie later on and stuff, sure. And you see him partying and merriment and whatnot, absolutely. But the way that he acts, the entire range from the depths, or from, I'm going to kind of take a page out of Darth Plagueis, from the heights of transcendent joy to the depths of anger and despair. Mel Gibson has pretty much, in every movie that I've seen him in, has expressed the entire spectrum of emotion in the movies that he is in. And it really is joyful to see. I mean, he just does it so well. On Mel Gibson's director role, I have not seen The Passion of the Christ, Neozoic, so I cannot really comment on his directorial talent. However, I can say that I understand that a lot of people like his movies that he directs. So, yeah, there's that. But the movies that he plays in, I mean, Fat Man. Folks, I kind of just took like 2 years before I got around to watching this movie. And when I finally saw it, it's like, holy shit. He plays that so well. He plays Santa so well. And then he also plays the vengeful part of Santa so well. Because he goes right up to that kid at the end of the movie and he's like, you hired somebody to kill me. You nearly succeeded. I'm not gonna be jolly much anymore when it comes to you. If your aunt dies before her time, I am coming for you. And he means to kill the kid. He threatens to kill the kid, essentially. It's insane to see Santa Claus threaten to kill a kid because that kid put a fucking hit on him. It really is. I mean, he played that so well. And I'm thinking, woof, to push Santa Claus that far. I mean, what headspace do you got to go and get into? It is so fascinating with Mel Gibson because the man comes across as such a nice guy out in real life, but in his movies like Mad Max, where he shows that he's a nice guy until his family is murdered, and then he goes full on Punisher. It's like, holy crap, dude. I mean, Hamlet, he plays Hamlet pretty well. He shows the insanity there too. I mean, folks, there are so many movies that he does. This one he was more tame, but that just shows that he can turn it on and off without blinking. What kind of actor can do that without some sort of trauma in their life? You know? Other ones too, such as Apocalypto, never saw it. Braveheart, he did that. He directed that and acted in that as well. So he did that very well. The Man Without a Face, never saw it. But his direction in Braveheart, where he directs how battles go, and he directs how actors should act and whatnot, he does a very good job with it. Because that movie, combined with its score, is so emotional. I mean, I cannot listen to the scores of Braveheart without shedding tears. Because there is a sense of patriotism with Mel Gibson. Even in the movie The Patriot, which I don't have an overlay for. Sorry about that. Even with that, or that movie as well, he shows a sense of tactician, where he is a person who fought before, but doesn't really want to fight until he's now forced into fighting. So, yeah. It is a historically inaccurate movie. That is very true. I am aware of the inaccuracies. But it's still a wonderful movie. Objectively speaking, without the comparison to historical events, Braveheart is well done. It is very well done. Yes, they use real events like the Battle of Bannockburn and Starling and whatnot, but yeah. Holy shit. Are you serious? Suggested that Mel Gibson should play James Bond, Connery play as M, but Gibson turned down due to fear being typecast. Holy shit. And it's good to see you, geek or freaky. Good to see you, man. And thank you for joining. But yeah, for Braveheart, the way that he can go into such, when he turns on the "My wife is dead" William Wallace, I wouldn't even want to be around that man. I would never want to wrong that man. Because when he comes up to you, puts the knife to your throat and slits your throat, he won't have emotion. That's the kind of roles that Mel Gibson plays. He has such a stoic expression when he is doing some of the most violent things in the movies. When he shows how deep he can go, how dark he can go. That man is a well of darkness, but also he is a stairway of joy. And when I see him in his movies, it's like, holy shit, you know? It is seriously some what the fuck kind of stuff, you know? Now, let me get this up for the end of the thingy. But yeah. 1 second, folks. Zero B is uploaded. Good. So yeah, when or take what was it? Mad Max. When me and Mara watched this movie, when I watched this movies for me and Mara's discussion, this dude was kind of liking what he was doing, which was basically being a police officer who was lesser or during the failure of society. He was a police officer during the downfall of society. And then he essentially chooses, or after fighting against this or the group from Toe Cutter's group, holy crap, man. He goes from absolute depths of despair to even deeper into sociopathic psychopathy. Where when he kills Toe Cutter and then he finds the last guy that also menaced his wife and also did other shit and killed a cop and whatnot, who basically drove him off the edge or the ledge of sanity. He grabs the guy, drags him over to a leak or to a vehicle that's about to blow up, and leaves a lit lighter, and then gives him a saw. If you're lucky, you can saw through, or these are high tensile steel handcuffs. You could cut through them in about 10 minutes. You can cut through your ankle in about 5. But he also shows him that there's leaking gas and he's going to pull it towards the lighter. And then he just leaves the guy there. That is some serious Punisher shit. The director of Punisher, as I said with Marge, like, I'm willing to bet the director of Punisher got that idea to kill John Travolta's son in the movie from that, where he puts the mine in where Thomas Jane's Punisher puts the mine in the kid's outstretched arm and then just leaves him there with the mine primed and ready to blow. It's like, holy shit, man. It looks, or it's like the Cleopatra documentary or that Root series of The Patriot or The Patriot to, you will get the sort of movies that will make certain people look bad, and it's there to mess with your emotions. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with Mel Gibson. He has a lot of movies in which he does vengeance. And he does a lot of vengeance movies, and he does them very fucking well. Although, do you think Mel Gibson would be a good Bond? Back in the day? Back in the 80s or 90s, I think he could have pulled it off. He could have possibly even pulled it off as an older Bond in the 2000s. I think he could have done it. I really do. But yeah. I mean, there is just so many more and while you see that he does do a lot of vengeance movies, he also does other movies like Chicken Little or Chicken Run or whatever it was, Chicken Run, where he plays a cowardly chicken. Sure, he puts on a flashy bravado and flirtatious attitude, but when it comes down to it, he's a chicken. And, well, he's a cowardly chicken. But, yeah. That just shows the range that the man has. The most range I have ever seen him play, though, was in Braveheart. He was truly happy. He was very loving. He was wily. And then tragedy strikes, and this man is just cold. Deathly cold, as he rains death upon others. James Bond should always be English or at the very least British. I agree. But I also believe that there could be a person who could portray him with an accent, a fake accent. I mean, how many American characters are portrayed by British actors and Australian actors, him included? Because, well, yeah, Mel Gibson's Aussie, or is an Aussie, folks. I'm not completely blind to that. I also liked him in Expendables 3. Take it easy, Neozoic. But yes, Expendables 3, where he basically plays a person who goes nuts, he was an expendable, and he actually got the Expendable started with Barney, with Stallone's character. However, he went completely dark. He went complete dark murk, killing people and enjoying it. And it's like, dude, fuck off. It's that kind of thing. But then he plays a character that's like, if you can fucking do it, or if you can fucking kill me, then kill me. But hey, if you miss your shot, I'm gonna fucking rain hell on you. And by the way, when I say I'm gonna rain hell on you, I'll drop a fucking missile on your ass. I'll fucking put a bullet through your friend. I'll fucking torture the hell out of your new recruit of Expendables. And by the way, I will use a fucking country's army as my own private army to fucking kill you. So, yeah. That's the kind of crazy that I can fucking do. That's the kind of character he was in Expendables 3, and I love it. Fucking love it. Mel Gibson can play villain. He can play hero. He can play anti-hero. I mean, honestly, to be completely freaking serious, folks, if Darth Plagueis, not that one that they are showing in The Acolyte, but if Darth Plagueis if they ever did Darth Plagueis in live action Star Wars that was under George Lucas, I would have had Mel Gibson providing the voice for Darth Plagueis. Because that man can go from heights of transcendent joy down to the total depths of despair. He plays insanity well. I believe that he could have done Darth Plagueis really fucking well. Because the way that Darth Plagueis was, so sure of himself, but then during the assassination attempt where he's forced to cut loose, but then he also goes nuts and deep paranoia. I think that Mel Gibson would have been the perfect person to portray that character. I really do. It's like, holy crap, dude. But let me ask you, would you be angry if someone has to rewrite history? I mean, look at the Disney movie Hercules. Disney's offered the movie to Greece, but the Greeks didn't want it. I don't like when history is rewritten with the purpose of changing things for an agenda. Movies like Braveheart, I have no problem with because the movie was done well as a movie. it was based loosely on historical events, but it was mainly a movie. And it's all right, man. That Cleopatra thing that Netflix did, where Cleopatra was black instead of being what she was, I do take offense to. I do think it is absolutely insulting, especially to the Greeks and those who Cleopatra, the Macedonians, who were. It wasn't remade for an agenda, or the agenda for that one was mostly to tell a good story. If the agenda is to tell a story without saying, or without putting identity politics or any of that horseshit in there, I have no problem with it. Identity politics is where I have is what I have problems with, because identity politics, by its own definition, by its basic definition, by its basic action, is abhorrent and disgusting. It's racist in itself. The agenda is not to preach, or entertainment is to entertain, not to preach. Braveheart was not a preachy movie. Braveheart was a movie that showed the patriotism and the will of the Scottish people to gain their freedom. And yes, there was also the character of Robert the Bruce, who was trying to do what was best for Scotland, and was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and realized his mistake and then decided to rectify it. A lot of people forget that Robert the Bruce was the main, or while the movie focused on William Wallace, Robert the Bruce was actually the person to gain that focus, because he was the historical character that people remember. Um, 32 minutes. Yeah, I think I can go a little bit more. But yeah, folks, I wish I could have a conversation with Mel Gibson, because I would ask him questions about his movies. I wouldn't go be talking about political climate or shit like that. However, I would though ask him, it's like, do you feel that movies have been marred by social changes or forced social changes? I would ask him about that. And, you know, I would ask, or that's how I would actually bring it. It's like, do you believe that movies have been marred and are not as exciting as they could be due to how Hollywood has given into pressure from a very vocal minority? I would ask that question. Although I would probably try to find a better way to ask it, you know? But yeah, with Mel Gibson, he is the, how should I say it? He is the psychopathic character of this month's themes. He's badass as a psych, or he is the badass psychopath. Next week, folks, we are getting into the badass strongman. And I'm pretty sure you all can guess from me simply saying strongman, the badassery of Arnold Schwarzenegger will be coming next week. Because as a lot of people have kind of hated on Schwarzenegger, I do believe that as an actor, he is talented. But I will continue that discussion later, next week, of course. And I do want to say thank you to Vanya, to Freaky, to Neozoic, and Geek Archivist Pierce, and everybody else in the chat. You all are freaking awesome. Again, sorry that I was late tonight or today. And I will be on the Barroom podcast tonight, 9 p.m. on Society Reviews channel. We'll be discussing stuff and talking about, well, I won't be talking about the movie because I didn't see the movie. But anyway, folks, thank you all so much for tuning in, and Make sure to subscribe and share my stuff out. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subs. It looks like I might not do it in that time or in this time because, well, yeah, it's kind of been hard to get past 1550. I just got past it and I was starting to grow, but then fucking subs just shot downward again. So if you all can help me with that, that is the best way to support my channel. Share my channel out and also sub if you can. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You all have been freaking awesome. Have a wonderful day. And always remember to stay humble.
Are you done? Are you done?